The bright lights of Erebros's central diplomatic hall cast long shadows across the faces of the assembled delegates. Captain Aaliyah Karth straightened her uniform collar, feeling the weight of every eye in the chamber upon her. As the representative of humanity, the Deathworlders, as the galactic community called them, she was accustomed to the mixture of fascination and wariness that greeted her presence. Erebros itself was an irony. Once considered the most inhospitable death world in the galaxy, it had, over centuries, been transformed into the diplomatic center of the multi-species alliance. The Planetary Peace Conference held here was the rare event that brought together representatives from all major species, a testament to how far interspecies relations had progressed. Captain Karth's mission was straightforward in theory: demonstrate that the discipline and justice values of Deathworlders helped maintain interspecies peace. In practice, it meant navigating the complex web of suspicions and old grudges that still lingered, even 50 years after the Silent Year, when Deathworlders had successfully mediated the Thaxian-Velkari conflict. Ambassador Mora Rin of the Velkari approached, the crystalline formations in her eyes shimmering with cold calculation. "Captain Karth," she said, voice precise and measured. "I trust your journey was uneventful." "As uneventful as space travel can be," Aaliyah replied with a diplomatic smile. She had learned to read the subtle shifts in Mora's crystal eyes. Currently, they reflected suspicion. Nearby, Dr. Joran Soth, a Thaxian military biologist, observed their interaction with interest. Though he had publicly questioned the advanced healing capabilities of Deathworlders in the past, he had also quietly supported certain conciliatory factions. His ambivalence made him unpredictable. The chamber quieted as the council chairperson called the assembly to order. This was to be a routine opening session: expressions of goodwill, reaffirmations of peace treaties, discussions of minor trade disputes. The Alliance members had grown accustomed to the quiet, non-violent presence of Deathworlders as peacekeepers and mediators. But routine was not on Captain Karth's agenda today. When her turn came to address the assembly, she stepped forward, data tablet in hand. "Distinguished representatives," she began, her voice calm but carrying to every corner of the hall. "I come before you with disturbing information that requires our immediate attention." The silence deepened as Aaliyah revealed her report. A biological weapons trafficking operation had been detected on Erebros, originating from a region known as the Black Venom Forest. According to intelligence gathered by the UES Hearthsong science team, toxic seed pods were being transported to Velkari and Thaxian industrial zones, as well as smaller outposts. "The evidence suggests," she continued, "that these biological agents have been modified for enhanced lethality across multiple species. Given the extreme nature of the Black Venom ecosystem, I propose that a Deathworlder Special Operations Team, uniquely trained to survive in such hostile environments, be deployed to track and neutralize this biological weapons cache." She had expected resistance, but the immediacy and vehemence of Ambassador Mora Rin's response surprised even her. "Objection!" The Velkari rose in a single fluid motion, crystal eyes flashing. "This so-called report lacks sufficient evidence. Once again, we see Deathworlders defaulting to violent intervention. One must wonder if this report is merely a pretext to expand their influence in our territories." Dr. Joran Soth's reaction was more measured. "While I acknowledge the gravity of such allegations, I must recommend a parallel investigation conducted by an Alliance-appointed team. The genetic secrets of biological weapons are not something I feel comfortable entrusting solely to Deathworlder hands." As murmurs rippled through the assembly, Aaliyah maintained her composure, but inwardly, she recognized the familiar pattern. 50 years of peace had not erased the underlying tensions. The Deathworlders remained feared for their potential, not trusted for their restraint. "I welcome a joint investigation," she replied carefully. "But time is critical. These weapons, if deployed, could devastate entire populations. As the session adjourned with no resolution, Aaliyah caught Dr. Joran Sath studying her with what appeared to be genuine concern in his amber eyes. Whether that concern was for the biological threat or for what her people might do about it remained unclear. The acid rain of Erebros battered against the protective gear of Aaliyah's small research team as they made their way through the black venom forest. Engineering specialist Holok Trent led the way, his scanner sweeping for both environmental hazards and signs of disturbance. Biological doctor Elena Waugh followed, collecting samples with meticulous care. "Captain," called Holok, pointing to a barely visible seam in what appeared to be solid rock. "I'm reading power fluctuations beneath this formation." Aaliyah nodded. "Good eye, Trent. Let's proceed with caution." The hidden laboratory they discovered exceeded their worst fears. Sophisticated microbial cultivation equipment, modified cell samples, and detailed research notes on cross-species infection vectors filled the abandoned space. "This is advanced work," Elena commented, her voice tight as she examined the containment units. "Whoever did this understands both Thaxian genetic engineering techniques and Erebros biology. That's a rare combination." As they documented their findings, Aaliyah found herself struggling with an internal conflict that had grown increasingly familiar. She had spent her career upholding the image of Deathworlders as peacekeepers, disciplined, restrained, always playing clean, despite their capacity for violence. But faced with evidence of a threat that could kill millions, was restraint still the right approach? Holok seemed to sense her thoughts. "The Thaxians and Velkari will twist this," he said quietly. "No matter what we find, they'll claim we're manufacturing a crisis. Then, we make our evidence irrefutable," Aaliyah replied, though she shared his concern. For 50 years, Deathworlders had been the stable force in interspecies relations, the ones who refused to engage in the underhanded tactics that had characterized previous eras of galactic politics. Their reputation was built on transparency and justice, not deception and force. But what if that reputation now stood in the way of preventing a catastrophe? The second council session was even more contentious than the first. Ambassador Mora Rin had shifted her strategy, now openly suggesting that the Deathworlders themselves might be behind the biological agents. If Deathworlders possess such destructive biological tools, why not use them directly, she asked, addressing the assembly rather than Aaliyah. Many signs point to this report being a fabrication designed to demonstrate their security value to the Alliance. Dr. Joran Sath, however, seemed troubled by the escalating accusations. He stepped forward, his scientific integrity apparently winning out over political expediency. "I can confirm that DNA traces of an unknown weapons-grade pathogen have been detected," he stated. Though he did not fully endorse Aaliyah's findings, his partial confirmation lent credibility to her report. But the debate became academic when, 3 days later, disaster struck. A biological attack on Pyron Station infected a portion of the Velkari population with a virus matching samples found on Erebros. The attack was swift and devastating, triggering panic throughout the station. Almost simultaneously, a Thaxian customs station was disabled, its energy weapons arsenal placed in the hands of imposters disguised as Thaxian officials. These weapons were then used to attack a Thaxian arms transport, leading Thaxian representatives to accuse the Deathworlders of deliberate misinformation to cover their true operations. In the chaos that followed, Aaliyah assembled a team including Elena Waugh, Holok Trent, and Captain Kale Voss, a Deathworlder Special Forces officer. Together, they pursued leads on the virus's origin, discovering connections to a cult that venerated Deathworlder greatness, while actively working to destroy their reputation for peace. "They're using our own strengths against us," Elena said, as they examined communication logs recovered from a cultist's abandoned hideout. "They want to force us into a military response that confirms the worst fears about Deathworlders." The confrontation with Ambassador Mora Rin after the Pyron Station attack was particularly tense. The Velkari diplomat had called an emergency session to formally accuse the Deathworlders of orchestrating the biological attack. "You present yourselves as the galaxy's protectors," she said, crystal eyes fixed on Aaliyah. "But you are hypocrites. You cultivate an image of restraint while secretly developing weapons that target our weaknesses." Aaliyah felt a surge of determination rise within her. "Ambassador, I understand your fear, but consider who benefits from turning the Alliance against Deathworlders. Not us. We have worked for generations to build trust. Ask yourself who would gain from that trust being broken." Meanwhile, Dr. Joran Soth faced his own conflict. The Thaxian Council demanded he provide full access to the DNA data he had mentioned, forcing him to choose between scientific objectivity and political loyalty. His decision to withhold some findings until independent verification could be completed put him at odds with Thaxian leadership. The Alliance Council, under pressure from both the Velkari epidemic and the Thaxian weapons theft, began calling for sanctions against Deathworlders. Some even suggested expelling Aaliyah and her entire delegation from Erebros. In response, Aaliyah made an urgent request: an independent investigation, conducted by an interspecies committee with no ties to any of the involved parties. It was a gamble, but one that might be their only chance to uncover the truth before hostilities escalated beyond repair. The factions within the council became increasingly defined. The skeptics, led by Velkari and Thaxian representatives, believed Deathworlders were leveraging their heroic image to prepare for eventual interspecies dominance. The supporters, primarily Altarians and smaller species, remembered the silent year and maintained that Deathworlders were being framed. As tensions mounted, Aaliyah knew they were running out of time. Someone wanted a war, and they were willing to sacrifice countless lives to get it. The emergency convocation on planet Kordath, the traditional site of the Galactic Tribunal, brought together the key figures in the crisis. Aaliyah, Dr. Joran Soth, and Elena Wah presented their combined findings to the hastily assembled judicial panel. The virus samples show DNA modified from two sources, Elena explained, displaying holographic molecular structures above the central table. Half contains Thaxian biotechnology markers, while the other half incorporates native Erebros organisms, a combination that could not occur naturally. This is evidence of deliberate engineering between Thaxian extremists and the organization calling itself the Black Consortium. They played a recovered audio recording. Thaxian extremists discussing with the Black Consortium their plan to release the virus as a political warning, followed by weapons theft, all designed to turn the Council against Deathworlders. The revelation sent shockwaves through the Assembly. Ambassador Mora Rin and several Velkari officials now appeared distinctly uncomfortable as evidence mounted that they had been complicit with Thaxian extremists, using the epidemic to undermine Deathworlder credibility. "Our investigation reveals," Aaliyah continued, projecting data that showed Thaxian extremists had stolen Erebros biological samples for experimentation. "The truth has been deliberately concealed for weeks, while innocent lives were endangered." The heated debate that followed was interrupted by an urgent communication. A group of Velkari militants had disabled the orbital defense systems of Kordath, allowing a Thaxian fleet to approach the judicial complex. Their stated goal: to destroy the evidence and force Aaliyah's team to withdraw their accusations. Without hesitation, the Deathworlder Special Forces from the UES Hearthsong, alongside their Altarian allies, on the ship Aurelian, moved to intercept the Thaxian vessels before they could reach the Council area. The Thaxian ships deployed experimental core plasma weapons, designed to overwhelm conventional defenses. But the Deathworlders' bioshield system, developed by Holok Trent, absorbed much of the energy, converting it to defensive power. The Thaxian attackers, faced with unexpected resistance, began to retreat. Throughout the engagement, Aaliyah struggled with her competing priorities, protecting the innocent delegates while ensuring the evidence of conspiracy wasn't destroyed. This was the moment of truth, the point at which Deathworlders would have to decide whether playing by the rules still served justice. In the midst of the orbital confrontation, Aaliyah made her decision. Using the communications array of the UES Hearthsong, she broadcast the compiled evidence, audio recordings, biological data, Thaxian extremist journals, directly to every planetary information system in the galaxy. Every interplanetary communication network simultaneously carried the unfiltered truth. The galaxy witnessed the Thaxian and Velkari conspiracy unfold in real time. The deliberate framing of Deathworlders, the planned epidemic, the orchestrated weapons theft, all to destroy the credibility of a species they envied and feared. The immediate shift in public opinion was palpable. The trust many species had placed in Thaxian and Velkari leadership collapsed. The Deathworlders, who had chosen transparency over revenge, were elevated in the estimation of the galactic community. The political fallout was swift and decisive. An emergency session convened to strip the Thaxian extremists and Ambassador Mora Rin of their positions, charging them with treason and biological genocide conspiracy. The Galactic Council issued the new Silence Decree, establishing severe penalties for misinformation related to biological security or political attacks between species. General Wythe Prime, an Altarian military leader, proposed constructing a monument to honesty on Kordath, bearing the names of Aaliyah Karth and her team. Smaller species that had previously harbored suspicions now sent messages of gratitude, establishing military and cultural cooperation agreements with Deathworlders. The reintegration of Deathworlders into galactic leadership was formalized with their invitation to chair the Galactic Biological Security Committee, overseeing all research into viruses and modified bacteria. In her address to the reformed council, Aaliyah Karth spoke with measured conviction. "We have taught the galaxy a lesson. True strength lies not in violence, but in the courage to defend truth. Deathworlders did not evolve on the most hostile planet in the galaxy by being reckless or cruel. We survived by cooperation, by discipline, and by knowing when to stand firm." The Biological Security Alliance was established, comprising Deathworlders, Altarians, and trusted representatives from other species, with the mission of preventing similar destructive pathogens from ever threatening galactic peace again. No, the aftermath reshaped interspecies relations for generations. Deathworlders maintained their position as guardian species, with students from across the galaxy flocking to Erebros to learn survival techniques and biomedical sciences. Aaliyah Karth was named Honorary Galactic Senator, representing the principles of justice and peace. Ambassador Mora Rin served her silent sentence, 1 year without speaking rights in the council, before being assigned to an underground cultivation area, testing biological remedies for her own species. She abandoned her political ambitions, learning humility through service. Radical Velkari faced accountability, forced to reform their biphasic policy to increase transparency and social controls. Dr. Joran Sath rose to become director of the Thaxian Institute for Biosecurity Research, committing to work alongside Deathworlders in preventing biological weapons development. He improved the military education system, steering talented Thaxians toward medicine rather than weapons manufacturing. The anniversary of what became known as Clean Game Day developed into a galaxy-wide observance. Each year, representatives placed a crystal, Velkari, a rough stone, Thaxian, and a bloodstone, Deathworlder, side by side on ceremonial tables, symbolizing reconciliation alongside humanity and science. In the Biological Security Alliance Library, a group of multi-species students gathered, reading Aaliyah Karth's famous words. "In a world of 1,000 dangers, the hardest task is not to win through force, but to maintain justice when faced with powers of jealousy and deceit." They looked up at the painting of Erebros, the death world shining brightly amid the galaxy. A reminder that the day Deathworlders stopped playing clean was not merely a battle, but an eternal testament to human nature, born in death, yet choosing justice to create peace. Captain Alia Karth stood on the observation deck of the UES Hearthsong, watching as the diplomatic vessels departed Erebros, following the conclusion of the reformed Planetary Peace Conference. The events of the past months had transformed galactic politics in ways she was still processing. Captain Holok Trent joined her at the viewport. The final Velkari delegation has cleared our security checkpoint. Ambassador Mora Rin's replacement has formally extended their apologies again. Alia nodded. And Dr. Jornsath? Already en route to Thaxia. He's been appointed to lead the restructuring of their biological research protocols. Holok hesitated. He asked me to convey his personal gratitude for your willingness to include his research in the final report. He made the right choice in the end, Alia said. Not everyone would have had the courage to stand against their own leadership, especially with the political pressure he faced. Elena Waugh entered, datapad in hand. The quarantine on Pyron Station has been lifted. The antiviral treatment derived from Erebros flora has neutralized the pathogen completely. No new cases in 14 days. Alia allowed herself a small smile. Some good came from the Black Venom Forest after all. That's not all, Elena continued. The Altarian Science Council is proposing a joint research initiative with Deathworlders. They believe our adaptation to extreme environments holds the key to developing new medical treatments. And the Black Consortium? Alia asked. Holok's expression darkened. Captain Voss's team has tracked down their remaining cells. The cult members are being rehabilitated. Most were misguided Deathworlders who believed they were serving humanity by proving our supremacy. Alia turned back to the viewport, watching as Erebros rotated slowly beneath them. We came too close to playing their game, she said quietly. If we had responded with military force initially, without gathering evidence. But we didn't, Elena reminded her. We maintained our principles even when pushed to the breaking point. Not entirely, Alia corrected. We did stop playing clean in one crucial way. We took direct action when the rules were being manipulated against justice. We showed the galaxy that Deathworlders will not be passive in the face of injustice, even when cloaked in diplomatic procedure. The ship's communication system chimed, indicating an incoming transmission. The holographic display activated, revealing General Wythe Prime of the Altarian Defense Force. Captain Karth. The insectoid figure greeted her with a respectful mandible click. The Galactic Council has unanimously approved your proposal for the Biological Security Alliance. They are requesting that you personally oversee its formation. Thank you, General, Alia replied. The Hearthsong stands ready to assist. There is more, Wythe Prime continued. The Council is also establishing a new protocol for crisis response, based on your actions during the Cordith incident. It will be known as the Karth Directive, authorizing full transparency measures when conventional channels are compromised by corruption. After the transmission ended, Holok asked the question that had been on all their minds. Do you think this changes how the galaxy sees Deathworlders? Undoubtedly, Alia replied. For generations, we've been feared for our capacity for violence while being respected for our restraint. Now, they understand that our restraint isn't weakness. It's a choice we make daily, one that can be unmade when justice demands it. The day Deathworlders stopped playing clean, Elena mused. And started playing fair instead, Alia finished. 5 years later, the Galactic Academy of Interspecies Relations on Erebros held its first graduation ceremony. Students from 17 species had completed the inaugural program in diplomatic crisis management, with a special focus on biological security and ethical intervention protocols. Alia, now Admiral Karth and head of the Biological Security Alliance, had been invited to deliver the commencement address. As she approached the podium, She noted how the central hall had been transformed, where once suspicious glances and hidden agendas had dominated. Now sat young beings united by shared knowledge and purpose. "Distinguished graduates," she began, "you have chosen to study on a planet once considered too deadly for any but the most resilient species. In doing so, you honor the principle that wisdom often emerges from the harshest conditions." She gestured to a display case containing 3 items: a Velkari crystal, a Thaxian roughstone, and a Deathworlder bloodstone. These 3 elements represent more than the species they symbolize. They represent a choice that every diplomat, every leader, every citizen of our galaxy must make. Will you choose the beautiful but fragile illusion of perfection? The unyielding hardness that refuses to adapt? Or the resilience that absorbs trauma, yet remains true to its essential nature? In the audience, she spotted Dr. Joran Sath, now distinguished by the blue research collar of the Thaxian scientific elite. Beside him sat a younger Velkari female, the daughter of Mora Rin, who had chosen a different path than her mother, pursuing xenobiology instead of politics. The crisis we faced 5 years ago tested not just Deathworlders, but every species' commitment to truth and justice. It revealed that playing by the rules matters only when those rules serve justice. When they don't, when procedure becomes a shield for corruption, then we must have the courage to forge new paths. The Academy's director, an Altarian named Professor Zix, had incorporated a unique feature into the graduation ceremony. Each student received not just a diploma, but a vial of purified water from the Black Venom Forest, rendered safe through Deathworlder biofiltering techniques. It symbolized how danger could be transformed into sustenance through knowledge and care. "As you leave this academy," Aaliyah continued, "remember that the greatest threat to peace is not strength used justly, but weakness that invites exploitation. Deathworlders did not survive our harsh homeworld by denying reality or by surrendering to fear. We survived by facing challenges directly, by adapting without compromising our core values." Later, at the reception, Dr. Joran Sath approached her. "Admiral Karth," he greeted her formally before speaking more personally. "Your words today reminded me of something I've been meaning to tell you. The Thaxian Historical Council has officially revised its records regarding the Cordith incident. It now acknowledges that your actions prevented what could have been a devastating interspecies war." "That's unexpected," Aaliyah admitted. "Thaxian historical revisions are rare." "As are Deathworlders who refuse to exploit their advantages," he replied. "The extremists who conspired with the Black Consortium expected you to respond with military force. They counted on it. Your restraint, until the precise moment when restraint no longer served justice, confounded them. We came close to giving them what they wanted," Aaliyah confessed. "When the attack on Cordath began, I nearly ordered a full military response. But you didn't," Joran observed. "Instead, you chose information as your weapon, truth as your shield. The day Deathworlders stopped playing clean," Aaliyah said with a slight smile, echoing what had become a common phrase throughout the galaxy. "I've never understood that expression," Joran admitted. "From my perspective, you simply changed the game entirely." 20 years after the Cordith incident, a new generation had grown up under the protective umbrella of the Biological Security Alliance. The Black Venom Forest, once a symbol of Erebros's deadly nature, had been partially tamed through responsible bioengineering, becoming a living laboratory where students from across the galaxy studied extreme adaptation. Admiral Aaliyah Karth, now in the twilight of her career, had returned to Erebros for the 20th commemoration of Clean Game Day. The celebration had evolved into a galaxy-wide festival of transparency and cooperation, with educational programs and cultural exchanges taking place on thousands of worlds. The central ceremony, however, still took place in the Great Hall, where the original confrontation had begun. Representatives from all major species gathered to renew their commitment to the principles established in the aftermath of the crisis. Aaliyah found herself seated beside an elderly Velkhari female, whom she didn't immediately recognize. "Admiral Karth," the Velkhari said, her crystal eyes clouded with age, but still sharp. "I wondered if you would remember me." It took Aaliyah a moment before realization dawned. "Ambassador Mora Rin." "Former ambassador," Mora corrected gently. "I have not held that title for many years." The decades had softened Mora's once rigid posture, and the crystalline formations that Velkhari developed with age now framed her face in a complex pattern that reflected her experiences. "I did not expect to see you at this celebration," Aaliyah admitted. "Where better for me to be?" Mora asked. "This day commemorates not just your actions, but my failures. It seems appropriate that I bear witness." Before Aaliyah could respond, the ceremony began. A young Thaxian scientist stepped forward, holding a sealed container. With careful movements, he extracted 3 substances: a luminescent crystal, a rough stone embedded with mineral veins, and a red-flecked bloodstone. "These 3 elements," he announced, "represent the foundation of our galactic cooperation. The Velkhari crystal symbolizes beauty and clarity of purpose. The Thaxian stone represents steadfastness and endurance. The Deathworlder bloodstone embodies resilience and adaptation in the face of adversity." As was traditional, he placed them in a triangular pattern on the ceremonial table, forming the emblem of the Biological Security Alliance. 20 years ago, he continued, these 3 species stood at the brink of conflict. Today, they stand as the core of our most successful interspecies initiative. Mora Rin leaned closer to Aaliyah, speaking softly. "Do you know what I have done since my disgrace?" Aaliyah shook her head. "After my silent sentence, I requested assignment to the Velkhari cultivation chambers. For 15 years, I have worked with the very biological systems I once feared in the hands of Deathworlders. I have learned that power is not inherently corrupting. It is our response to power that defines us." The ceremony continued with representatives from smaller species, offering testimonials about how the Biological Security Alliance had protected their worlds from natural disasters, pandemics, and environmental collapse. "I have something for you," Mora said, presenting Aaliyah with a small crystal vial. Inside was a clear liquid with faint blue luminescence. "This is distilled from the healing pools of Velkhari Prime. We once guarded this formula jealously, believing our biological uniqueness was our only protection in a dangerous galaxy. Now I offer it freely, a small reparation for my actions." Aaliyah accepted the gift with appropriate reverence. "Thank you, Mora Rin. This means more than you know. I have had 20 years to reflect on why I feared Deathworlders so deeply." Mora continued. "I believed your restraint was merely tactical, that eventually you would reveal your true nature as conquerors. I could not comprehend a species born in such violence choosing peace, not from weakness, but from wisdom." The ceremony reached its pinnacle as a group of children, representing every member species of the Alliance, came forward to place flowers around the 3 stones. It was a newer tradition, symbolizing how the next generation would build upon the foundation established by their predecessors. "Look at them," Aaliyah said, watching the children. "None of them remember a galaxy where our species were enemies." "And yet they are taught about the Cortith incident," Mora observed. "Why? Would it not be easier to let such conflicts fade from memory?" "We remember not to maintain old grudges," Aaliyah explained, "but to ensure we recognize the warning signs if similar patterns emerge. The day Deathworlders stopped playing clean was also the day we all began playing by better rules." After the ceremony, Aaliyah was approached by a young Deathworlder lieutenant named Mira Chen, recently assigned to the UES Hearthsong. "Admiral," the lieutenant saluted, "the ship is ready whenever you wish to depart." Thank you, Lieutenant, Aaliyah replied. There's someone I'd like you to meet first. She gestured to Mora Rin, who had remained nearby. This is former Ambassador Mora Rin of the Velkari. Understanding flickered in the young officer's eyes. Recognition of a name from historical records. It's an honor, Ambassador, the lieutenant said, displaying the diplomatic training that had become standard for all Deathworlder military personnel. The honor is mine, Mora replied. You serve on a vessel with a proud legacy. As they parted ways, Aaliyah found herself reflecting on the long arc of her career. From the tense confrontations of the Kordath incident to the integrated cooperation of the present day, the journey had been neither straightforward nor easy. There had been setbacks and challenges, moments when old suspicions threatened to resurface. Yet the foundation built on that pivotal day, when Deathworlders had demonstrated that their commitment to justice transcended their commitment to rules, had proven remarkably durable. On the Hearthsong, Aaliyah made her way to the observation deck, gazing down at Erebros. The planet that had once been considered too deadly for any but Deathworlders now hosted the galaxy's premier diplomatic academy, its most advanced biological research facilities, and representatives from hundreds of species. Admiral, Lieutenant Chen joined her. May I ask you something? Of course. In the academy, we studied the Kordath incident extensively. But there's one aspect the historical records don't fully explain. When you made the decision to broadcast the evidence directly to the galaxy, bypassing the council procedures, how did you know it was the right choice? Aaliyah considered the question carefully. I didn't know with certainty, she admitted. But I understood that when systems of justice are corrupted, adhering to those systems no longer serves justice. The rules exist to protect truth and fairness. When they're manipulated to conceal truth, new rules must be written. The day Deathworlders stopped playing clean, the lieutenant quoted. Yes, Aaliyah smiled. Though I've never been entirely comfortable with that phrase. We didn't abandon our principles. We affirmed them in the most decisive way possible. We showed the galaxy that Deathworlders value justice above procedure, truth above convenience, and peace above power. She turned back to the viewport, watching as Erebros rotated beneath them. The Black Venom Forest, now visible as a dark green expanse against the planet's very terrain. Remember, Lieutenant, we didn't survive on the harshest planet in the galaxy by being predictable. We survived by adapting while holding firm to our core values. That is the legacy of Deathworlders, and it's one I'm proud to pass to your generation. As the Hearthsong prepared to depart, communication systems across the ship lit up with messages from dozens of worlds, expressions of gratitude, invitations to cultural exchanges, requests for assistance with environmental challenges. Where once Deathworlders had been viewed with suspicion and fear, now they were sought out as partners and protectors. The day Deathworlders stopped playing clean had transformed into something far more significant. The day the galaxy learned that true strength lies not in ruthless power, but in the courage to defend justice even when the cost is high. It was a lesson that would endure for generations to come, a testament to the enduring spirit of a species born in death, yet dedicated to fostering life throughout the stars. In the Biological Security Alliance headquarters on Erebros, beneath a display containing the 3 symbolic stones, a plaque bore Aaliyah Karth's words, now famous throughout the galaxy. In a universe of 1,000 dangers, the most difficult task is not to conquer through force, but to maintain justice when confronted with powers of jealousy and deceit. This is the true strength of Deathworlders. Not that we can survive the harshest environments, but that we choose to create environments where all can thrive. And on worlds throughout the galaxy, children of all species learned the tale of the day. Deathworlders stopped playing clean, not as a story of conflict, but as a lesson in the true meaning of strength, justice, and peace.